I'm just going to clearly explain my complaints against Cincinnati State. The first major complaint is fraud. And basically, what the school does with their medical field, with nursing, with sonography, general imaging, with sonography, cardiovascular, and with surgical tech, you have to do a clinical portion, which is like a hands-on training that you do at the hospital. They can only take a limited number of people, like 12 to 15 people per class. So sonography, general imaging can take maybe 12 to 15 people a year. Sonography, cardiovascular can take 12 to 15 people a year, and so on and so forth with nursing programs, surgical techs, similar situation. The thing is, they don't tell people that to begin with. They bring in as many people as they can. They advertise for it. They bring in 100, 200 people into the nursing program a year. They'll bring in huge sums of people, and they've given presentations to an auditorium full of 500 people saying, I recommend that every one of you sign up for sonography today. I've been there. I've seen them do it. And they don't tell you that, only 12 people a year can graduate. They never say that. They withhold that very important information from you. I went to Cincinnati State for 2 years, and I was enrolled in the sonography program for over a year of that, for about a year. And that was listed as my major. I signed up for it as a major. I took all sonography classes. I took everything I needed to do. I talked to the sonography advisor. No one told me anything about clinicals or limited availability or anything like that. They purposely withheld this information. But that's not where the deception begins or ends. That's only the beginning. That's not where it ends. It's only the beginning. They lie about how much money you're going to make. They lie about job placement for graduates. They know about it because I've told them, like when they lie about surgical techs making $20 an hour to start out. I tell them that surgical techs start out making $12 an hour. That's a huge difference. They don't tell you that. They lie about all kinds of things. They lie about the nature of the job. They lie about the money you're going to make, and so on and so forth. All this deception is to get as many people as they can to enroll into the program and make as much money as they possibly can. Now, there are federal laws which the Department of Education is supposed to enforce that specifically address this kind of deception. Colleges have already been taking to court over it since the 70s, and it's well established that you cannot do this. The reason why they're getting federal funds, and they're basically ripping off their students, and they're also ripping off the federal government through the deception, through deceptive practices. And it specifically mentions the exact same things that Cincinnati State is doing. There's cut and dry. There's no room for debate. It's illegal, and that their federal funding is supposed to be cut off if they do this until it stops. So that's my one complaint. I haven't found the specific statutes online, so it ripped me off. Like, I would have never taken the medical field. I would never have signed up for sonography or taken anything medically related if they would have told me that only 12 people can graduate a year and 100 people are entering. Or if they would have told me, well, there's certain minimum requirements, you have to have a certain GPA or anything like that. They never said anything about that. Never. Until I was 95% finished with my degree. I'd been there for 2 years, working towards a 2-year degree, and I just had a couple classes left, which is just the clinicals. That's all I had left. And then they say, well, drop out. So that is the first major illegal thing that they're doing. It's clearly for financial gain. They have advertisements all over. They constantly advertise for these programs, and yet they say that they don't have enough openings for the people that are already in the program. So why are they advertising for more people if there's 100 people vying for 12 positions as it is? Clearly, they're not looking out for the students. Clearly, they're looking out to engorge themselves and fill their own pockets with money. As well, they signed me up for student loans, and I didn't even request them. And they gave me Sallie Mae loans, and they didn't even tell me I had a choice, which I did. So I'm sure they're getting kickbacks from that. I know a lot of that has changed recently with the federal government taking over the loans, but at the time they were doing that. They were doing a lot of illegal things, but I'm just keeping it simple with the main grievances that I have personally that has cost me a huge amount of money and prevented me from getting an education. So the other major issue is discrimination. Now, since they only have 12 openings and there's 100 people vying for those openings, they don't have a system where they fairly apply. They don't go by grades or go by first come, first serve, which any other class in any other college that I've been to, it's first come, first serve. The first person to sign up for it, if there's 30 openings, the first 30 people to sign up for it are the ones that get it. And then they have like another kind of reserve thing in case someone drops out. They'll take like 10 people in reserve or something like that. And that's how it's always been done. And in every other class I've ever had where there's too many people, and in 2 different colleges I went to. And that's what I hear from other people who go to other colleges. But this college, they don't do that. They don't let you sign up for it online. They don't let you sign up for it at the desk. The heads of the program actually sign people up for you. And so they're able to apply their own personal discrimination. Mainly this takes the form of the game of favorites. If they look at somebody and they say, I like this person. This person's similar to me. I like them. I'm going to let this person in. I don't like the way that person looks. I don't like the way that person dresses. I don't like that person's attitude. I don't like that person's hair color. You guys can drop out. Now, they don't come out directly and say that to you. They'll just go to meet with you individually and say, well, sonography's not for you. I think you should drop out. There's not enough openings for you. And what was different with my case was I said, I'm determined to get my degree. I'm not going to drop out. I want to know why. Well, your grades aren't high enough. Do you know what my grades are? No, I don't remember. I just remember they're not high enough. Really? And what's the minimum GPA I need? We'll talk about this later. No. What GPA do I need? Well, you need a 2.5. That's good because I have a 3.0. So my GPA is high enough. Well, no, that's not high enough. So I've had several meetings with the lady and keep catching her lies. And eventually she had to admit, I don't like men. And that's when I realized with the sonography general imaging class, 100% females were being brought into the clinical portion. And that's where the sexism came into play. Not every single situation is sexism per se. It's favoritism in various forms. However, they wish to arbitrarily pass their judgment, whether it's sex, race, height, hair color, whatever. They just do whatever they want. But there is a pervasive amount of sexism there. I also took an EKG with the head of the nursing department, and she actually moved the class around to prevent me from going to class. When I walked into the classroom, the first thing she said to me is, why are you here? I said, I signed up for this class online. You're not one of my students. She got hostile with me the first moment I met her. And she said, we're moving this class next time. We're going where our previous nursing class was, wink, wink. You all know where it's at. And I'm like, excuse me, teacher, excuse me. And she kept ignoring me. I'm like, finally she talked to me and I'm like, I don't know where that class is at. I don't understand why you're moving the class. Well, I'm moving it because this class is for my students. And she told me it's on the second floor. And the next week when the class went on, I looked in every room on the second floor. It took me over an hour. It was not on the second floor. I finally found it on the third floor. And that's when she got hostile with me again and then said, we're moving to class again next time. She sent like an email or something. People, you guys know where it's at, things like that. And eventually I just wasn't able to find the classroom and I failed the class. I didn't even take the class. I got an F in it, though, even though I never was able to attend. And this is pretty extreme. There are federal discrimination laws that specifically, explicitly say that this is completely unacceptable behavior. And so, this is not something subtle. It's not in the eye of the beholder. It's not like a gray area. This is pretty blatant discrimination. At the time, I didn't realize that it was because of my gender. But about a semester later, the sonography lady told me that men are inferior and that she doesn't think men are suitable for the medical field. And that's when I thought back to last semester and I was like, all that lady's students were female. The lady who kept moving the classroom. I really didn't put that together at the time. I was just really confused about what was going on. And most of the classes are usually majority female. It's usually about 75% female class ratios anyway in the classes I was taking. And there were other men signed up for sonography general imaging who the lady told for whatever reason convinced them to drop out or switch majors. And then she told me this sexist stuff with the sonography cardiovascular lady sitting right next to her, nodding her head. So this is sort of like among the heads of the medical program. They seem to go along with the sexism. Now, I only have one lady, which is the general imaging sonography lady. She's the only one who came out and was like foaming at the mouth, saying she hates men and men aren't suited for the medical field, and she's not going to let a man into her class. She's the only one that came out with that kind of brutal hostility, but the other ones are like sitting next to her, like, even though they didn't really say anything directly, they really didn't object to it either. So, I mean, there is kind of a difference in extremity there, but pretty much everyone there kind of at least is sympathetic towards the sexist viewpoint of this woman. And she told me to switch over to cardiovascular, sonography cardiovascular, and she said there would be no problems if I switch to that. And so I guess they did that to shut me up for a few months. I switched to it, and then when it was time to take the class, they wouldn't let me into that class either, and the same games went on. And they had private meetings. This is one of the crazy things. They had private meetings with me. It would be the sonography general imaging lady. It was like kind of a skinny white lady with like dark curly hair. And there was like sort of like a black lady who does the cardiovascular sonography. So the two of them would go in this room, they would pull down all the shades, like close all the shades, they turn the lights out. They make sure there's nobody behind the door, like they lock the door and everything. And then they'd have a conversation with me to resolve the problems that we're having. And sometimes they'd start, we hate men and stuff like that. I mean, clearly it's not legit when you're turning the lights off and closing the shades, and they make promises to me that they never kept. And they'd also insult me and say sexist things and racist things to me, which they'd be belittling me at one moment, and at another meeting they'd be telling me what I want to hear and just not really following through with it. So it was just a complete waste of time. And so I told the school, like, every time I complain about it, they just want to have one of these private meetings, and I've had like 10 of them, and I've been completely lied to, and it's wasted a lot of my time and money. They tell me to sign up for classes, I sign up for them, pay the tuition, and then I'm told I can't take the class. So I just said, if we're going to have these meetings, let's film it. Just film the meeting and let me keep a copy of the film. Because then they make promises, and then 2 months later I say, remember you promised me 2 months ago? I don't recall that. That conversation never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. So I just said, look, I mean, if you make a promise, put it in writing, or if we have a conversation, just put it on film to resolve any kind of dispute or whatever. I don't understand why there should even be a conflict. I'm just trying to sign up for a class, and you won't let me. You know, I meet all the prereqs for the class. Everything's fine. And, you know, I bounce around, surgical tech. She lied to me. She put my name on the list. They said it goes by a list. They kept changing what it goes by. You know, first they say it's first come, first serve, or we have a list of who can take the clinical, or it goes by grades and things like that. And none of those hold water. You know, they'll say it goes by grades, and people with lower grades than myself are admitted into the program. Then they say it goes by the first date of enrollment. People that enrolled the same time as me are admitted into the program. So, you know, none of it held water except for some of the sexist and racist things they say. That seemed to actually have some truth to it. So, I'm not going to say that within the sonography general imaging, it was 100% female. And when I recently checked on it, it's still 100% female. So year after year, it's had 100% female graduation. And it makes sense that there may be more females in that program due to the nature of sonography, and you're doing ultrasound on babies and things like that. But there were men in the program. There are men that have entered the program, and zero have that I know of have actually been allowed to take clinicals. And in my case, the primary motivation of trying to boot me out seems to be that they don't like white males specifically. They don't like men in general, but white men are like even worse than normal to them. So in some of the other programs, it's just a game of favorites. I know the surgical tech had a lot of men in it, but it's just whether she likes you or not. She'll just treat one person like crap and tell them to drop out. And another person, she'll let them through the program and be nice to them. And you could tell, like, she won't make eye contact with people that she doesn't like, and they kind of talk down to you. Like, they treat people differently. And it's just a game of favorites and teacher's pet or whatever it is. but none of it's legit. You know, no matter what reason they're discriminating against people, they need to have a system in place and go by that system and have a fair way of selecting people for the clinicals. If they say it goes by the first date of enrollment, then they should just go strictly by the first date of enrollment, not tell some people to drop out and refuse to let them take the class and then let other people write through. If it goes by grades, then it should go by grades, but they make all kinds of exceptions, and it just all goes on their personal judgment. Their personal judgment is the biggest thing, and they say, I don't think you're suited for sonography. Well, let my employer decide that. You know, I've been going to the school for 2 years. If you didn't think I was suited for sonography, you should have told me a year ago. Instead of taking all my money and let me take all these classes, and then when I'm 95% of the way finished, telling me to drop out of college. They tell me to drop out of college. And they tell me I'm stupid and I'm not good enough for college and all these other things. And men are dumb and women are superior and just completely unprofessional things. But they always say it alone. Like, they don't say these things in public. They say when they're in a room with you alone or to you privately. So at least on some level, I guess they know what they're doing in that regard. But you can look, if you really want to do a real investigation, look at the number of people enrolled in sonography general imaging, for example, and see how many people were completed all their classes except for the clinicals, but then mysteriously dropped out. And you'll see that there's a discrimination there. And even in the other ones, even though it's not 100% discrimination, there is a bias there. You know, there is more of a favoritism towards females. There's favoritism towards minorities. There's favoritism towards certain types of people that they like. And you can just go and audit their records and see the people that were in the program and that were enrolled in that, declared that as their major, and then they took all the classes except for the clinicals, and then they were booted out. Now, I don't have the authority to audit their records, but if somebody in law enforcement honestly wanted to verify what I'm saying, it can be easily proven in that way. But for the public, I found online sources that say, you know, sonography general imaging at Cincinnati State has 100% female enrollment. Now, after I complained about it and said it's online, they've taken those stats down. But when you fill out the FAFSA, they usually send you that information. It'll say, you know, here's the graduation rate for Cincinnati State, here's the gender ratios, and sometimes you'll get, I don't know if they're going to break it down specifically by major, but sometimes they'll send information like that to you through the FAFSA. But the federal government does have information on it. That's where the data comes from. So if you are an officer of the law, you do have access to federal statistics that are kept. That data is there. So you don't have to take my word for it. It's not my word against theirs, but there's real hard physical evidence. Just like they put on their website that surgical techs start at $20 an hour. And they clearly don't. I told them in 2008 that they don't start at $20 an hour. They know that they're lying, but they continue saying that. That violates a law about federal funding that I mentioned at the beginning. They exaggerate the amount of money that sonographers make. They say that they get 100% job placements. And I know from what I've heard from people that graduate that the job placement of graduates in the first year is like 90%. It's like 90, 95%, but it's not 100. But they'll tell people 100% of our graduates of the sonography program have a job within the first year. And that's not always the case. Even if the jobs are out there, there's usually one person that, for whatever reason, doesn't find a job right away. Maybe they just have different priorities. They want to backpack through Europe or something. But that idea that 100% of their graduates are getting a job, that's not true. And that clearly violates the law. They cannot give people false information to compel them that would influence their decision in enrolling in the program. And basically, like I said, they've cost me probably $100,000 in lost wages, $60,000 in student loans and things like that. My federal student aid is about maxed out, where I can't go and take a different major. And if they would have just been honest, if they would have said, we hate men and we don't want men in the sonography program, I would have said, see ya, I'll just take a different major. But the same people that, when I'm 95% of the way done, tell me to drop out, they're the same ones that were there when I first enrolled telling me to enroll in that major. They specifically set me up. And they did it with other people too. in their defense, they think that we're stupid, and they believe that most of the people are going to wash out anyway, which a lot of people do. They end up changing majors anyway, or they end up just dropping out of college. But still, a lot of people do make it, and they do, and when they get to that point, they're being denied access to the classroom. And like I said, gender is an issue. They did deny me specifically because I'm a male, because I'm a white male, and primarily they don't like men, and that's why I was denied access to the clinical, even though at the time I had they were saying they wanted a 2.75 GPA. Now they told me that when I was 95% of the way done. They never said anything about needing a high GPA. If I would have known that I needed good grades, I would have tried to get straight A's, but instead I tried to pass. I just did the minimum necessary because that's all I thought I needed at the time. They changed the rules post facto, but I actually had the 2.75 GPA that they needed, so that wasn't an issue. Now later, when I flunked out of EKG and different problems that they caused for me due to their reckless behavior towards the end, my GPA was affected. A lot of the classes that they moved around and wouldn't let me take, they gave me an F for it, and it hit my GPA, and they billed me for it, and came out of the Pell Grant. So I mean, what can I say about that? If I would have known they were going to do this, I would have made different decisions. I did take classes I didn't need, but I was well within the limit. Now, if I would have known they were going to do all this to me, I wouldn't have done that. So. I think it's clear they discriminate based on gender, and they also commit fraud, and they also play a game of favorites, which is also plays into the fraud that they're doing. That's it.